Welcome to Freddie Run's Runners Connect podcast, where Freddie and Scott explore the world of running, fitness, and beyond. But before we dive into today's episode, a quick disclaimer. Whilst we love to share experiences and insights, we are not coaches nor nutritionists, so remember, nothing discussed here is intended as professional advice. Always consult with qualified experts for personalised guidance. Enjoy the podcast. And welcome back to the Runners Connect podcast for episode 11. And I'm joined as normal with my right-hand man, Scott. Scott, how are you?
Good afternoon. Yeah, good. Just back from a bit of a hiatus on the podcast, but it's been a well-deserved break after a lot of running over the spring/early summer, I think.
Yeah, we did. We've just had a nice little few weeks off, really. I haven't put a video out at all, I think, for about 3 weeks, something like that. So yeah, it's been nice just to have a bit of rest and recuperation and not have to worry about all of this just for a couple of weeks. Not that it's stressful, but it's just one less thing to think about in it during the summer. Like you say, after the build up to Endure 24, getting all of that done. It's been a nice little break, and actually it's been quite good for me, especially because I've not been filming my runs. I really struggled a bit actually after Endure to get back into the swing of it. I think my legs took a little bit longer than I expected to recover, which, I did the half marathon a week later. That wouldn't have helped. Took a couple of weeks off, but now I feel like I'm back in that place where I'm back to training, pretty much back to how I wanted it to be. And we're only a few weeks out from the Great North Run, so that has come just in time. Because I actually got to the point not just where my legs weren't playing, but my mind was saying, "God, I can't be asked."
Yeah.
I think actually it's probably a good thing to have that every now and then, just to give yourself a break.
So I've not had a lull in motivation yet, really, in the 18 months, 19 months I've been doing this. But
Right.
I have to admit, the last few weeks I've just gone really low key, and I've been helping James. James, who's a cousin of mine, and he's started out his running journey, and I've been just focusing on helping him. And because I'm helping him, it's just short, really easy runs for me. I mean, James might disagree at the minute, but he's getting there. So I've just kind of just been in autopilot, just banging out 5Ks 3 times a week and a long run on a Sunday. And we did the York 10K together. It was his first proper race 2 weeks ago, and he absolutely loved it. He has got the bug big time.
Good.
For him, it's really been helpful. But for me, I'm a bit like yourself. I've kind of, I wouldn't say I've lost the motivation, but I'm just in autopilot and I'm just churning out training runs, really. Nothing. I've got the Middlesbrough 10K lined up the 1st of September. But again, I'm using that as just a long run on a Sunday to help Jimmy out. I've got nothing major road race wise for a good while yet. And I know you guys have got a few of you doing Great North, so you'll be tapering as well in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, are you?
Well, not really, I don't think, because I haven't really done any specific training for this. So there's nothing really to taper from. I think really the next couple of weeks I need to just make sure that I'm ticking over and I'm not losing any fitness. But I don't think there's going to be a real specific taper. And it's going to sound stupid, and I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm looking at it as it's only a half marathon.
It's crazy. So, that's an old one. Yeah, a year ago that scared the pants off me, but now I'm in the same boat. It's like,
well, I think now I'm definitely not scared of that distance. I've done probably half a dozen half marathons this year, so I'm not scared of the distance. It's whether or not I can do it in the time that I'm hoping to do it in, and I'm not sure I've got the speed in my legs at the minute, but I'm still going to try.
It's a hard one for a time. It's so busy. Yeah. It's rammed. There's so much traffic, so you're going to be weaving in and out and doing a lot more miles than's on the course officially. And a lot of it from the starting point is uphill. You don't realise how heavy it is until you're about mile 2 or 3, and you think, is this going to end this bank? But I don't think it's a course for a PB, if I'm honest.
No.
But just enjoy it. I loved it. It was a brilliant experience.
Still got to try though, right? Still got to try.
Yeah, wasn't it a few weeks ago you were knocking it out, and then you let the brakes off and you had a bit of a niggle. So I just rein in the what do you call it?
Yeah.
Got the enthusiasm. You need that. But yeah, just be careful. Don't go ripping something.
No, and do you know what? I just want to go back to what you mentioned a minute ago, James, your cousin James.
Yeah.
What a cracking start he's had so far. I mean, to be doing a 5K. He what was his first 5K? 30 what?
I think it was. Well, it's only 9 weeks he's been running. He's never really ran further than the local shop for a can of beer, you know. And he's had a bit of a life-changing decision to get off the sofa and start moving. So I think it was about 38 minutes.
Right. And he's just done I mean, yes, was it yesterday in a training run? He's done 28 and a half.
Yeah.
You know?
It's phenomenal. He's got the bit between his teeth. He's had after his York 10K, which again, he started in the 1 hour, 15-minute pen. And I said, James, honestly, your first event, you'll get carried away as much as you'll try and be disciplined. You'll get swept up in the emotions of it and the people cheering you. We all do it. And I said, I guarantee you will not finish 1 hour 15. You'll go much quicker. He came through 1 hour 5. 1 hour 5 for his first 10K. He only started running 9 weeks ago. And he's a big guy. Got a lot of timber on his frame at the minute. So God knows what he's capable of in a year's time. I'm going to have to watch me back shortly.
Well, he's going to crack the hour in his next one. I've got no doubt about that.
100%, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well done. Well done, James. Keep it going, man. Yeah. Well, let's just get to it, mate. Let's not beat around the bush anymore. We had so for those listening now, it's actually Thursday evening. It's 20:08 in the evening.
Yeah.
But this is the second time we've been online together today because we had quite an interesting morning this morning, right?
Didn't we just? Yeah, it was an early start.
It was an early start. We were online recording a nice podcast at 6 o'clock this morning. Because if those of you that followed what was going on at Endure 24 will know that we were lucky enough to meet up with Ross Noble, the comedian. And we were even more lucky enough that whilst we were running around, Ross said to us, you know, oh, could I come on your podcast? And we were like, I guess. But anyway, trying to play it cool. And then here we are a couple of months later. We've just done a podcast with Ross Noble.
Yeah, surreal. It was very surreal. At the time, we were thinking, "Oh wow, that's great. That's brilliant for running in general," because no one knows him for running. No, I didn't know he ran. And as I said in the podcast, you'll hear it shortly. How we met him was just one of those bizarre freak moments. But such a top guy, such a really down to earth, normal guy, and he's filled opera houses for his stand up shows. He's big time, you know. And that hasn't changed him or affected him whatsoever. He's just such a nice top bloke and really relatable.
Absolutely, no ego whatsoever. So let's not beat around the bush anymore. So enjoy the podcast. Here we go with Ross Noble.
Right, welcome back everybody to episode 11 of the Runners Connect podcast. Today's a bit of a special one because as you can see on screen, the very unique man that he is, the stand-up comedian, and also a little known fact that he's an ultra runner, Mr. Ross Noble. Morning, Ross from the UK. You are obviously at home right now.
I am in Australia at the moment, and I couldn't help smiling when you said that. Little known ultra runner, you know. I was just out with Killian just a minute ago, you know, just chewing up the miles. it's kind of ridiculous when you say it like that, but yeah.
Do you know? I need to ask about that. Go on.
I was just going to say it.
We got a lag going on here.
Go first. You go first.
The worst lag in the world, and I'm going to blame your technology. We've had big technology problems this morning with Scott. He looks a little bit blurry. I was going to ask that straight away, and I don't want this to sound unfair to say so, but you're a bit like me, Ross. We don't look like runners. You know, from what people would say, oh, he's a runner. Is that a surprise to most people?
What a great way of saying you look like a fat. Oh my God, I was feeling pretty special. Yeah. And then now, well, look, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, you're right. You're absolutely right. I think there's this you know, like I sort of, it's a long story, you know, but I was like a thin bloke, and then I was a fat bloke, and then I was a thin bloke again, and then you know, I'm sort of in that. I'm going through. I go like that, you know, and so yeah. But it's one of those things where like I've always been quite I've always been really active, and I think it's one of those things where, you know, it's the sort of thing where as soon as you get a bit fat, people just assume that they just assume that you're like massively sort of sedentary, you know. But it's that thing of like, you know, like I'll go on stage and I'll dance around for like 2 hours every night, and then you know, and I've always been, you know, I've raced motorcycles and all that sort of stuff. So I've always been quite fit. But yeah, it's just one of those things where, you know, every now and again, for whatever reason, the call of the pies.
It's real.
You know, yeah, so people do get a bit surprised, but you know, there's nothing I like more than running past people and seeing the look on their face where they go, "Whoa, hang on."
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky because, you know, sort of, yeah, like at the moment, what happened with me basically was I got gout. I got a sort of,
Right.
it's such a stupid comedy illness because people think you're like some sort of medieval landowner who's like sitting there drinking like port and, you know, eating cheese and all that. And I don't drink. I've never drunk. And then all of a sudden, I just got this sort of, I got the gout, and it was just this crippling. It's hard to describe because it sounds like such a comedy illness, but it is this sort of like, it's like this crippling arthritis that's like, it's like your feet are burning and somebody smashed up your toes. I thought I'd broken my foot, so I slipped into this cycle of running. Really loved running, and then the gout would hit, and then that would stop me running, and I just sort of spiral into this thing, and I put on weight, and then like I get back to it, and then the gout would hit again, and I just got into that, you know. So it's one of those things where I just got a bit fat, you know. So I'm good. I'm so good. And the other thing is as well, people always just go like, oh, you know, they always obsess about like weight and just go, oh, you know, if I lost weight, I'd be able to run around after my kids. And it's that thing of my kids can't keep up with me. Got loads of things like, oh, you know, you lose a bit of weight, you'll be able to, you know, you'll be much healthier. And it's that thing of like, well, I can run all day and I'm fat. So where do you try? Yeah, anyway, that's
And you can run all day. We've seen that firsthand. That's obviously how we met you. Was at Endure 24, which was incredible.
Can I just tell that story? Because we were giggling about this the other day, and I was like, should we tell this? And I'm not embellishing this, but I was halfway through the ultra. I Endure with Freddie. Freddie needed the gents, so we parked. I parked the bus while Freddie went and had a Jimmy Riddle, and you came running past me. And you know when you do a double take, and I thought, no, it can't have been. Freddie came back out of the toilets, and I went, I'm not 100% sure, but Ross Noble might be running this. And Freddie goes, he might, you know, because he added us on Instagram the other day. So then we spent the next 15 minutes chasing this big, massive black hair bobbing around in the distance. And we chasing you. And then I remember tapping you on the shoulder going, is it Ross? And you blew my mind because you turned around and you went, I know you. How's the calf? And I'm like, what? I went, if you know me, you'll know him over your shoulder. You turned around, you spotted Freddie, and that was it. And then you blew our mind because the fact that you'd watched some of the channel on YouTube. But that was our introduction to you.
Yeah, and what a great place to meet as well. In the middle of the, at least it was still the daytime when it wasn't when it hadn't got like weird, dark, and scary. Because I think that would have been a bit worse. It just popped out of a bush and got out of you.
What a great event that looked.
I had, I'd seen some of the videos. You know, I'd sort of, because you know, like, you get on the YouTube and you get on the, you go down the rabbit hole, and yeah, and I'd sort of it was one of the things where like I was looking at the because obviously it's one of those things where so I'm into trail running. That's kind of my thing. I'm not really, I'll do like I'll do like half marathons and stuff like that, but it's not the only marathon that I've done's been what was it like like a trail marathon, and it's one of those things where like really enjoyed all that, and I did, it's like all of these things, you can't just do something by half, can you? And I'd sort of go, I'd done all these trail runs, and I did and then I did a trail marathon, which was kind of like, it was half hills, half sand, and that was pretty tough. And I sort of did that, and I went, yeah, actually, this sort of, the whole sort of the idea of doing the ultra stuff, that really appealed. But then you go on the YouTubes, and it's all, it's all these like French blokes, like little wiry French, just sort of like, speeding through the Alps and that. And then I found your videos, and it was just that thing of like, hang on, that's in Leeds. That's that's not the Trail du Mont Blanc. And I looked at it, I just thought, well, that just seems like a bit of a laugh, So so I watched all the videos. So it was it was a right laugh. I saw, when I saw you all, and I went, oh, they're actually here.
Yeah. And we're actually going back next year as well. There's a good group of us going back next year to do it again.
All right, okay. I'm going to be on tour over here, so I'm not going to do next year, but I might do the year after. But
cool.
there's a few over here. There's a few sort of. But of course now I've cracked the 100K. I've got to get. It's got to be 100 miles next, hasn't it? That's got to be the next one.
That's the one. So I turned 48 this month, and I've said that next year is the target 75. Then the year after that, go for the 100s. When I hit 50, gonna go for the 100 and go back there.
Yeah,
that's the one to do.
So how did you? Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to ask you about enduring and your experience of it, and what. How because I know every time we saw you, there was somebody shouting Ross, which was amazing. And I can remember one of the laps, actually, we crossed the start-finish line with you, and everyone went wild. It was brilliant. It really sort of lifts you up as you're knackered. But really, I'd like to just, how did you find all that? I know you mentioned the 100K. Just what happened?
Well, I mean, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Weirdly, one of the reasons, this sounds like a right arsehole, but one of the reasons that I really love trail running is because there's no people around,
Yeah.
And that sort of, and it's one of the things that puts me off. It's one of the things that sort of puts me off doing, these big sort of mass participation things, is because, I did the Great North Run, and it was good. I mean, I was well out of shape at that point. I was right in the gout hole. But yeah, I found that thing of like people, because I live near the hills here, and I just go out in the hills. I'm just on my own, in my own head. So it slightly puts me off. Like in the Great North Run, the whole thing, there's people lining the course, so you're just getting heckled constantly. And I know for some people it's like a big lift. But for me, sometimes it's a bit like, oh God, here we go. But weirdly, it was great. I really enjoyed Leeds because there was whole sections of it where there was people, and then you were on your own, But I just found the whole, because I used to do this thing every year. I used to race dirt bikes. I used to do this 24-hour dirt bike race. So I kind of I had something to compare it to, like racing for 24 hours. But I didn't. But the difference with that is, again, you got your helmet on, and I was trying to, trying to be competitive. So you're just flat out all the time. You're just constantly going, helmet on. All you can hear is the engine, and you just go, and it's really high, adrenaline, and you just don't speak to another person for 24 hours. But what I loved about the 24 there was the fact that, there was points where, I'd see you guys, and then for a bit, and then there was other people out there also doing the 20. You catch them up, you chat to them, and find out how they're doing. So you sort of checking in on how people are doing, and you see people who are people who are obviously like in the, because the emotions are going up and down. And I think the fact that people are, you can see when somebody's struggling, and if you're on an up and they're on a down, you think, all right, well, we'll have a bit of a chat, we'll run together, we'll walk a hill or whatever, and you sort of, and vice versa,
Yeah.
And I really like that. I really like the fact that it's not like, I've done a half earlier in the year, and it was literally just head down, run as fast as you can. You're out of breath all the time. Just go. Try, just trying to hit your times and all that. And there was none of that. And that's what I really loved about it, and like you say, that final bit, where there's a big, they got the big screen up, and all the people that are in teams are waiting to join the, waiting for their person, and everyone's clapping you in and asking you how you're doing and all that. It's great, so that's which I suppose, I mean, I've done a like I said, I've done trail marathon, but I haven't done a long, I haven't done like 100+ trail run. And I'm guessing, apart from the checkpoints, probably don't get that. There's not the same sort of, because you're catching people up or people are catching you. There was a real sort of camaraderie to it that I liked, and I also quite like the fact that I know this sounds perverse, but I really like the fact that it started pissing with rain and it got cold, because it felt like it sort of felt like you were earning it,
It was taking you on a journey, wasn't it?
Yeah. So yes, it was good. I liked it.
And what was your target when you went there? Did you have a distance in mind? Was it the 100K?
It was the 100, yeah. So I was like, I sort of knew, because there was no cutoff. I knew I'd be able to, barring something going horribly wrong, I kind of went, yeah, I can get to 100. But what I didn't realize was the fact that because it's an 8-kilometer loop, I got to 98. I crossed the line and went, all right, brilliant, I'll get to 100. And I looked at my watch and I went, oh shit, I've got to, if I want to do 100, I've either got to run around the car park and just call it a day and at least register on me watch, or I've got to go out there and do another loop. And I went, which means I'll have to do 106 kilometers.
Yeah.
And I went, I've got no choice, So yeah, so I ended up. So yeah, so the plan was to do 100, but I didn't realize I would have to do. It's like doing 20 park runs and another park run and then a little. So yeah, that was. And then when I finished that loop, I kind of, at that point, I still had a bit of time left. I could have got one more in, and I was sort of in that sort of dilemma of going, well, do I bang in another 8 kilometers, or do I go, you know what? I came for the 100 and I've done 106, but do I go for another one? And I decided, I thought, you know what? I came to do what I came to do, so that's fine.
Yeah.
And my family turned up as well, and they never come to anything. So it was one of them things. I didn't want to go. Hey, thanks for coming. I'm just gonna go out and do another loop.
Yeah.
And also, I did. I was just gonna say as well, like I've never had this before, but I got blisters. I think because of the wet, because of the wet socks. I was kind of going all right for like I think till about 75K. I was in pretty good shape, and I didn't realize that. I think my shoes, because I did that thing of you know how everyone says, "Oh, your feet swell up a bit, so you need to get shoes that are just slightly bigger." I went half a size up in the shoes, but then what had happened is that my socks had got wet during the night, so on some of those downhills, my feet were just because one of the downhills, which I think as you sort of try not to slip, my feet were sliding like that.
Yeah.
So the bottom of my feet, I got blisters like just under not even on my toes, like balls of my feet there on both sides, and then they burst. So for the last sort of 30K, I was basically just running on. It was like running on razor blades, you know. So I borrowed some poles and I was using the poles, but yeah, that kind of like once like slowed me down, but it also I just wasn't. I thought I'd get cramps because I've had cramps before from, you know, like from running down hills. Like, because nobody tells you about that. Nobody says, "Oh yeah, you'll get you'll get cramps in your legs from going down rather than going up." So that's caught me out in the past. But I was waiting for that. I was waiting for I thought that's what I've got to be. That's what I've got to be ready for. Is that I thought the thing that would finish me off would be the leg cramps, and that never came. I'd done quite a lot of hill running beforehand to get ready for it, but yeah, I just wasn't expecting the blisters, and they crept up on me. So yeah, so I was in quite a lot of pain. so that was, but again, it was that thing of like my whole strategy was just, you know, when the pain kicked in, my whole thing was to keep going and try and block it out, or kind of half the time block it out and half the time just live with it, and then just keep going, and then I'll get to the 100. Just, you know, even if it slows me down, like I'll just push through.
Did you with your feet and that? Did you change the shoes? You change the socks? Did you change all of your clothes at all? Did you just stay as you were?
I just stayed damp for the whole thing. I had loads of changes of. I had like 3 pairs of trainers as well. I had 3 pairs of shoes and I had loads of spare socks. But there was something, I don't know, there was something about it. Just felt like if I stopped or if I changed my shoes or I changed my socks, it just felt like I thought, just don't mess with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just like, just put them on and just leave them. Because, you know, you say, and again, you know, this is, you know, going back to that watching things on YouTube, you see people taking off their socks and all the skin starts peeling away. And I just thought, don't mess with it. But again, you know, that thing of, you know how they always say, don't do anything different on race day. I wore a different pair of, there's this one pair of socks that I like, one brand of socks that I wear all the time.
Yeah.
And then because it was quite, I looked at it, I was going, oh, this is colder than I thought. So I put a pair of socks on that they were proper running socks, but they were a bit of a thicker kind of a wool. Shouldn't have done it. Should have just stuck with my other ones. I probably would have been. So yeah, I mean but again, I've never had problems with blisters, and then, but you know, you don't find these things out till you do it, you know. So
that's exactly what happened to me the year before. So when I did endure, I ran in Hockers last year, Hocker Cliftons, and I had at the time, I think I had 2 pair that looked the same, but were slightly different. One was a wide fit, one was a narrow fit, or regular. Right. And I put the regular on by accident. I was meant to put the wide fit on, and it was really hot that day. And middle of lap 2, I think it was lap 2, lap 3, my feet were falling apart with blisters. And once you've got them, you've got them, right? Deal with it.
But then it's that thing of like, you know, but what happened to you? If I had gone for the smaller shoes, I probably would have been better. So you oh dear, it's sort of like but it was a rookie mistake. But yeah, it's sort of.
It didn't ruin your race. It didn't ruin your race, so it wasn't a big deal.
I kept going. I mean, it wasn't pleasant, and it took a bit for them to come back. But again, you know, that's what I quite like about these sort of you know, these longer trail things, is that it's sort of, you know, if that was on you know, if that was on like a half marathon or something, and you are, I suppose it's a shorter distance, so if it all goes wrong, it doesn't really matter as much. But you know what I mean? Like if something goes wrong, and you've trained for, you know, if you've trained for sort of 15 weeks, that on that day you're going to get that time, and then all of a sudden 10 minutes in you get a stone in your shoe, it's all over. Whereas that's what's great about the trail running, isn't it? It's that thing, if you go, something bad can happen, you just keep going, you know. So
just eat some food. That's the thing I like. Everything's slowed down. It's an eating competition. And just while we're on that, go on, Scott. Go on.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. So obviously you've mentioned, I think I've seen it on your socials, but you mentioned your coach or your crew for the day. You used a guy called Marcus Scotney. Marcus is a bit of an animal when it comes to ultra running, and so you had like a gold standard crew member there. So I was expecting you to be full of hydration, electrolytes, and stuff. And then every time you came past us, you had a different product from a famous Northeast bakery called Greg's.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, Scotch. I remember running past you at one point, and I just had my Scotch egg. I went, Scotch egg, and you went, yeah. I went to Greg's in the morning, and I bought like 10 chicken bakes, 10 steak bakes, sausage rolls. Marcus is like, I mean, he is like, he, you know, going back to looking like a runner. I mean, he looks like, because he is, you know, he's like, he properly wins ultras and stuff. And I thought, but you know what's great about him is that he basically, you know, his whole thing, you know, and it's worth going online and checking out his stuff. But his whole thing was previous. So I started working with him probably 3 months before. His whole thing was, I had been doing that thing of going, right, I'm gonna run for distance, or I'm gonna run for pace, you know, like, I'm gonna do this run at a certain speed. And what he did was, which I think is the trick, is he goes, no. He says, what you do is you go out there and you basically run for time and heart rate. So it's the sort of thing where he'd say, like, right, you go out and today you're going to do a 4-hour run, and it doesn't matter how fast you run it, but you keep your heart rate in a certain bracket. So rather than getting up and going, oh shit, today I've got to run, you know, I was using this app, you know, one of these apps, these training apps, and it would say, you know, are you doing a threshold run, and you've got to go at this pace for 45 minutes or whatever. Whereas with Marcus, you just go, right, go out on the trails and just run for 2 hours and keep your heart rate in this, you know, in this space. And it completely changes the whole thing. Because if you're having like a shitty day and you just haven't got the energy, because that's the thing with me, like, you know, I'm on the road all the time. So I finish my gigs. I'm not finished till midnight. You know, sometimes I don't go to bed till 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And if I want to get up and run the next day, I'll often run on like 4 or 5 hours sleep, you know. So you're just in this constant, you know, and eating shit food and all that sort of stuff. So so he's sort of stripped away all of that kind of you know, that sort of how would you describe it? Just that bullshit of go at this pace for this long and you hit this, and then if you're gonna it's just like, right, go out and run for 3 hours. And like, you know, like today I went out and was only like 40 minutes, you know, but it was like, keep your heart rate in a certain bracket, and then spike it through the roof and then come back down. And sorry, long-winded way of saying. So, and he basically said, you know, like with the fueling and all that. And I've played around with the energy gels and all that sort of stuff, and that's what I used on that half that I did. And he went, well, you can eat anything you want as long as you can keep the food down. And I was like, what, anything? And he went, yeah, as long as it's got the calories in it, as long as it's got the, it's got the right stuff in it. And I went, what, like Greg's pasties? And he went, that's what you want to eat. That's what, because you're burning off so much, so many calories. And then I didn't realize that as well. I didn't realize that a lot of people find it hard to keep the food down when they're running over that sort of distance. Doesn't bother me. And
Don't bother me.
I think you know what I mean? Flapjacks, and I had it was like I had Mr. Kipling running with me. But again, that's what I love about these long runs. It's just sort of like peanuts and cashew nuts and all that.
It is a different mentality to the races after, and the whole demographic is different as well. I said to Freddie, it's like going on holiday with a load of surfers who just like eating and running.
Yeah. But what I would say is that the problem with it is that I'll go out and I'll bang out some long runs, and over the course of a week I think, bloody hell, I should have probably lost a bit of weight here. And then you go, oh no, because I put exactly the same amount of calories in as yeah. So it's at some point I haven't quite got that right. I haven't quite got the balance of getting into a calorie deficit, because you sort of then you start feeling tired and you're not fueling properly. But it's true. Sort of it's tricky though, because you sort of go, well, if I just ate some proper food for like 2 months, I'd be skinny again. So,
and that's it. I mean, I guess that's the answer, isn't it? Because I'm exactly the same as you. The running bit, I love. I do it. I get out and train when I have to, and I get it all right. But as soon as someone says, "Oh, do you not want to change that for a salad?" I'm like, no. No, I don't want to change it for a salad. I enjoy my food to my own detriment, I guess.
But what I would say is that, like, I was probably end of last year, I was trying for a bit. I was trying to get faster, and I did notice that there is a I know it's such an obvious thing to say, but I was going out. There's a athletics track near me, and so I go down there, and I sometimes do I'll do like the sprint stuff. I get really pissed off. I went down there this morning, and there's a bloody school sports day on, and it's that thing of like, it's meant to be like it's a state of the art athletics facility, and it's meant to be this incredible community facility. And there's just me, this grumpy old bastard in the car park, sat there going, bloody kids ruining it. Because you go down in the week, and it's basically, it's like guys like me. It's like middle-aged blokes who don't want to, who that's the only time they can go down there.
Yeah.
Or there's people who have, there's quite a lot of people who have obviously just started. Like, have just started exercising and don't want to run around their neighbor's house. So it's quite inspiring, It's like some sort of couch potato Olympics down there, But, I forgot what the point was. What were we talking about?
God knows. Your training, is that something you do on your own, or do you have training partners? You in a club? You just do it all by yourself?
No, I just do it by myself. I'll sometimes my tour manager. Oh, that's what I was saying. Yeah, with the getting faster. End of last year, I purposefully was really strict about what I ate, and I dropped about 10 kilograms. And I noticed that for every kilogram I lost, you get about 10 seconds. Like if you're doing like park run or whatever. You sort of get, and then the lighter you get, and it's one of those things where, but there's a weird spiral in that, because it's one of those things where I start getting faster, I was still way heavier than the other people who were running the same sort of times as me. So there's part of you that goes, I don't know if you have this, but there's part of me goes, well, I can run just as fast as these people, and they're running at their absolute max, and I'm coming in at the same time or faster. So there's part of me that just goes, God, if I lost a load without even training, I could be significantly and then and it gets into that thing of going, well, actually, I'm sort of better than them because I've probably got 30 kilogram. I'm wearing a 30 kilogram anyway. But no, I've my tour manager. Basically, we go and do park run. We'll do park run every Saturday wherever we are. And then we'll sometimes run together, but for the most part it's just me on my own. But I'm very lucky because obviously, like, wherever I am in the world, I go out and I just get on Strava and then just go, so sometimes I'll be, if I'm doing a gig in, like, over here, often I'll just be running in the desert, or I'll be running through like mangroves or whatever. And then in the UK, I'll be up, if I'm close enough to like the Lake District or the Peak District and stuff. So I get to mix it up a lot,
And how are you using that time? Obviously, you're out running, but everyone is thinking something when they're running. Are you using that time just to shut off and unwind, or are you using that time to think of ideas for whatever?
A bit of both, really. A lot of the time I like to I sometimes listen to music, but a lot of the time I quite like to put on podcasts and just sort of most of the time I'll there's about 3 or 4 kind of current affairs podcasts I quite listening to. So it's one of those things where I say it sometimes is it's like reading the paper, but without sitting on your arse, So I do that. And then other times problem with me is I get into these like you know how they say, like, with meditation, you're meant to think about nothing.
Right.
Well, I do the opposite. I think about everything at once.
Right.
So, and that was happening a lot actually on the 24th, which I quite liked, is I'll just sort of it's like daydream. I really like daydreaming. So that's what I sort of do. And sometimes I'll just get things in my head and they just go on this weird loop. So like Ban Ki-moon, that used to be the head of the UN. Right. I'll get his name, like, on that 24. I got Ban Ki-moon in my head, and then so I'm running along, and it was because I saw the moonlight coming through, and then it's that weird thing of like, and it's sort of what I do on stage, but my brain just starts kind of like going into these sort of like free associations of like, Ban Ki-moon. You start thinking about him, and I was thinking about how, like, if werewolves could be triggered by Ban Ki-moon, and then you sort of go like, are there other mythical creatures that could, does Boutros Ghali, does he have an effect on vampires? And my head just sort of goes into this, it just starts spinning around, and it goes off on these. And when I'm on stage, those things have to make sense to the audience. You have to bring people with you. But when I'm running, they don't. And then other things come in and they just sort of spin around. And then, like, I'll lose like an hour of just sort of pinballing around and rather than stopping myself and going, what are you thinking about that for? What are you wasting your time for? Just let it happen. And then, and especially if it's like that one where it was the loop, I'd go around, and then by that time I was off, I'd be thinking about, leprechauns or something. And then I'd come all the way around and I'd get to the place where I was before, and I'd go, oh yeah, Ban Ki-moon. And then you just so sometimes, but it's like that thing, isn't it? Of like, it's what I find interesting with running. Some people say you're running towards something, and then other people say you're running away from something.
Mhm.
And I think that's true of like the thoughts that sometimes I run because I don't want to think those thoughts, and then other times I
Right.
run because I want to. But I still don't know. I still don't know with my. I haven't figured it out, but it's some people are running to escape something. Some people are running. Some are running away. Some are running towards. And I haven't quite figured that out with me.
No.
So
So if you have to happen to have a break, I don't know if through injury or just through can't be asked. How does that change who you are? Do you feel different when you stop running? Does running keep you on the straight and narrow?
I've been quite yeah. Well, yes, yeah. I feel like with the gout, that was the big that was a problem because because you sort of I just take for granted. I just take for granted I can do anything. In my head, I go, oh, there's no drop off of ability or fitness or whatever. So you literally go, all right, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna run 20 miles or whatever. And you go, oh shit, no, this is oh, this is hard. And I don't like I know that seems obvious, but no, I'm not sort of I wouldn't say it's one of those things where it doesn't completely destroy me. It's more the gout really that messed me up because that was more just the fact that like because I couldn't. I think when I go running, I just feel like it's just an investment in not of it's just an investment in not dying.
It's prolonging.
Yeah.
So speaking of investment, when it comes to kit, are you a kit nerd?
Oh my god!
Behind him.
Oh my god! I'm the worst. I am the absolute. I'm the person that professional runners probably look at and go, "You dickhead." Yeah.
all the kit.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
But here's the way I justify it, right? So with the motorbikes, right? At one point I was up to I had like 15 bikes at one point, and I had I had one for like I had a dirt bike, I had a trials bike, I had a cruiser, I had a classic. I had one for adventure bike, I had one for everything. And it's that thing of like if you do if you're racing the bikes, you need the boots. Boots are 600 quid, they're 300 quid or whatever. Then you got to buy a helmet, which is £1,000. Then the bike, it's just crazy expense. Whereas what I love about running is you can spend a shitload of money on it, but it's not even close to,
right.
You get these guys that are like into, like cyclists, and they go out and they buy the Pinarello and they've got the carbon fiber and all that. You're talking like thousands. So weirdly, even though I'm a self-confessed kit dickhead, I absolutely I can justify it. Yeah. No. I'm but what I've noticed is I like as I've got more and more into it, I'm still buying loads of stuff, but I'm narrowing it down because now I know what works. I'm less and less, trainers though. I've the last year I've bought so many pairs of trainers. It's ridiculous now.
Yeah.
I mean, my car just literally looks like JD Sporting. It's a joke, But again, I just look at it and go, it's just like an investment in your feet, isn't it? It's like I would never skimp on motorcycle helmets because it save your skull. And I think the same with shoes. If you get the shoes right, then it's worth it. That's my justification. No, I love it. I've got so much. I just bought after the 24. I just bought some carbon fiber poles. The little things that you put on your hands so they clip in and all that. And I thought, am I going to use these? Maybe not. And then, and then you get you get yourself a fancy watch, and then so many shoes. And then I've got into these shorts. Have you this brand Saw? Do you know that brand? Yeah.
Yep.
So I bought a pair of Saw shorts, and they're proper expensive, but they're like they're fancy. And then I went, oh, they're nice. And then I went, oh, now they do like a trail running version. I went, I'll better get them then.
Shit everywhere. So is there anything you've bought where you're like, why did I buy that?
Why? I'm trying to think if I bought anything that,
apart from the poles.
No, I think the poles are going to come in handy actually. I'm trying to think, what did I buy? I did buy a pair of I bought a pair of carbon fiber, like carbon plated trail shoes, and I thought, well, I'll give these a try, and I put them on and I did one run in them and just went, oh, you dickhead, what have you bought? You know what I mean? Like, I just look at it and just went, these aren't helping.
With your shoes, have you found a shoe that like this is the shoe and I'll just buy this, or do you try all sorts? And
tried everything, like literally everything. I started off Saucony shoes, road stuff. They tend to fit. They fit my feet really well. And then I started getting into the Hokas. I went through Speed Goat. Then I just discovered the Mafati, that I preferred those. I bought a pair of I bought the Saucony carbon plated ones. They were just sort of just daft. Then I bought what was the next? Oh, I bought some of those the Nike Ultra Flies, the sort of carbon plated but ultra shoes, which were incredible. Like, absolutely loved those. And then so I switched between the Nikes, and then I go to the Mafatis. But I just bought a pair about 3 weeks ago. I bought a pair of the Adidas Terex.
Yeah.
Have you seen these ones? And they are like, I mean, half the time I'll wear them, even just for a park run. I'll put them on because they're a dirt shoe, but you can run on the road. I think they're the best shoes I've ever had. But I also really love the Innovates for the deep mud. I think I'll switch back to my mud claws. But yeah, I think at the moment, if you said one pair of shoes forever, the Adidas Terex have you tried them?
They were there. They were at Endure on the Friday night, and you could test a pair of the new ones. We did the shakeout run with them. But
really?
I didn't do the run.
You what?
I didn't bother doing the run with them. I did the shakeout with them, but I didn't borrow the trainers because I thought I don't want to risk a brand new pair of trainers the night before I do this. But I got a free Terex headband out of the deal. But yeah, there was people signing up and trying them out.
I mean, I wish I had, because honestly, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Because the night before, but then even then, I probably would have tried them out the night before and gone, change everything on the race day.
So Endure 24, for anyone that's like considering it as their first dipping the toe into an ultra run, what would you say that for that event? Is that a good one to try it?
Absolutely, 100%. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I did that. I think that, like I say, the previous one, I'd done this Surf Coast Marathon, and that was basically, it was a marathon, but it was like crazy terrain, but even with that, and there was aid stations along the way, and I think that was probably harder than the 24, just because because you're constantly coming back, you've got the option to bail out if you want, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be a bad thing for some people, not, you know, not give yourself the option. But yeah, certainly, like, it's just, I just think it's so much easier for, you know, if you've got mates with you, if you've got a crew, it's much more, it's such a social thing, you know, and you see the same people again, like I was saying before, because you see the same people again. It's not like, you know, on that other one I did, you'd run with some people for a bit and then they'd be slowing you down and you'd want to crack on. Or other times you'd sort of want to, they'd crack on. And whereas with that, you just, because you're circling, it's just sort of, if somebody wants to have a rest, you can catch them up on the next one or whatever. So, and also I think, you know, I sort of talked to a lot of people who were doing, you know, like the team, you know, doing it as a team. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that because I think as soon as you stop, it's so hard to. It was a couple of mates of mine were doing it as a pair, and you know, I don't know how they did it because it's that thing of like, you sit down. That was the thing, like, because I just never sat down for the whole thing. It's like, as soon as you sit down, as soon as you're in a chair, you're thinking, "Oh God, I've got to get up."
Yeah.
So just don't put yourself in that position. But yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think, you know, if you wanted to do it in a team and just because it's the sort of thing where, you know, maybe people haven't run, they might not have run a marathon before. So sign up as a team and then basically do 50K, you know what I mean? Do 50K over the course of the time.
Yeah.
And then at least you're, you know, you could do that. It's not like, right, everyone has to run this distance. And I think that's what's so brilliant about it is, you know, people that are in teams, they might only run 20, 25 over the day, but you can choose yourself. And also I think you don't feel like, because there's people who are out there in teams who are going flat out, you don't feel like you're trailing behind, you know, you don't feel like, you know, these, you know, the guys that are trying to win it, it's not like you can see them 15 kilometers down the trail on the next bay or whatever. That, you know, you're all just circulating. So absolutely. And also as well, like I say, anyone who's thinking of doing it, who maybe they've done a marathon, and I know this sounds insane to say, but I don't know if you agree with this. It's just easier. It's just so much easier than running a
100%.
marathon.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Or a fast. Like I say, I did a half marathon earlier in the year where I was cracking on, where I had a target, and by the end of it, I was like, God, that was hard. It was only 21 kilometers, you know what I mean? Whereas, you know, the 24, it's just, and I think, I'm sure you agree with this as well. 90% of it is all in your head, and
Absolutely.
10% of it's the running, and everything else is just, you know, you go, oh, it's a bit cold, oh, I'm a bit uncomfortable, and you just go, shut up, and then you go, oh, no, it's fine, and then and I think that's the big difference, isn't it? It's like, you know, of just sort of, it's more about, it's just sort of a low level of discomfort over a long, low level, getting used to low level discomfort over a really long time, as opposed to being incredibly uncomfortable for a short amount of time. And
running fast is hard.
You what?
Running fast is hard.
Yeah. It's really, and you know, even like, you know, like I say, I went out this morning for like 40 minutes, and I came back at the end of that because I was sort of running, I was doing some fast stuff. And I came back at the end of that and went, if I'd have gone out and just run for 4 hours, would have been easier than that 40 minutes. 100%.
Yeah. We've had that chat a few times where we'll talk about it, and people are like, oh, I couldn't do an ultra. I'm like, Well, you could. You've done a half marathon. If you could do a half marathon, you could do an ultra, because actually it's probably a little bit easier because you just slow. You're just doing it for longer, but you're slowing it right down.
Absolutely. Because I mean, like, if a half is, well, you know, like, because I worked it out and I basically did 2 marathons, a half, and then a kilometer. I think that's what it was. And
Right.
it's one of those things where if you say to somebody who runs marathons, I'm going to do 2.5 marathons, he's go, that's mental. It's just
Yeah,
absolutely mental.
it is. It is.
I mean, it is. Yeah. But like, it's funny because I sort of, you know, like when Eddie Izzard did his, you know, when he did all this like 30 marathons in 30 days or 40 marathons in 40 around the UK. And then and I talked to him about it afterwards, and he basically said that, which is mad because I've got another mate over here, the guy who's worth talking to. Actually, you should get him on, as a Australian comedian called Mickey D, and Mickey does and he's like mad into the ultra running. He's fast as well, you know, and he ran a half marathon every day for 30 days a couple of months ago, and he said exactly the same thing that Eddie said. He went, the first 10 days, the first 10 marathons are horrible. But on the 11th day, your body just goes, oh, we're doing this now.
Yeah, it's in.
This is what we do. And I think the same's true of that 24. I think the first lap, your body goes, oh, right, oh, there's a hill there. And you're trying to work, you're going, all right, there's this bit. The second lap, you go, oh, that's getting a bit hard. 3 laps in, you go, all right, that's that corner. And oh, that's coming up. Then we go around here. And then 5, 6 laps in, I think your body's just starts going, this is what we do now. You know what I mean? It's just, we do this bit. We go down here. Now we go up there. And I think if you can sort of get your head into that. And also as well, I think that, like, if you, for me anyway, I don't know how you guys do it, but like, if you think about, I think about running 100 kilometers, that's quite a big thing to think about. Whereas if you go, I'm going to run around that corner, and then you get around the corner, you go, oh, there's a hill there, run to the top of that hill. And there you go, I'll go down that, I'll run down that. Now, you know, you're not thinking, oh, I've got to run this another 13 times. You know what I mean? It's just that thing of just sort of,
There was one part of that route where you come down a little bit of a downhill, then all of a sudden there's a right angled right turn straight up that short bank. I don't know if you remember that bit there really played with my mind, because every time I know it's coming and I've got to get up that bloody hill again. Do you not remember that bit?
Which bit was it?
So Scott, you know the one, because you're
hang on, past where it was like was that near where the toilets were, where you'd come down and it was sort of like a wide, and then it come round to the right, and then it was the hill just before that big open bit that was all up here. Yeah.
That bit there, that played in my mind. That did. Every time I knew it was coming, I was like, oh, here we go. Even though I'm walking up it, I never ran up it once. But even walking up it, I was like, oh God, here we go again.
And at what point did you start to think, oh shit, it's coming up?
Probably 5 or 6 laps in. I'm not. I just hated that whole section. Even that open bit, the open courtyardy bit. Hated that whole section.
That's the bit that got me. I couldn't stand that bit. It was too open and flat and boring. There was nothing to occupy your mind. It was just like, oh, I can see where I need to be, but it's going to take me 15 minutes of plodding around this courtyard to get over there.
But you know what I think was deceptive about that was, one, you'd just come off because you come down that really you come through those trees. It's mad, isn't it? How you can remember every you come through all them trees with the roots and everything, and that was quite engaging because you were hopping around over the roots.
Yeah,
and then coming down that long hill. I think what was happening, because I've been caught out before with like with the muscles, the cramps from coming downhill. So I was trying to run the downhills as much as possible, just like taking the brakes off, because I find like when I keep the brakes on, it just sort of gets in my back and it just feels a bit. Whereas if you just go, I'm going, and it's like whee down the bottom. So by the time I got to that bit, I'd run down that hill. So I'd got to the point where I don't know if you were doing the same, but you sort of like, even though you're going downhill, heart rate's probably quite high at that point, and then slam the brakes on, and then that hill was such a because it climbed and climbed and climbed. Even though you were going slowly, it was the equivalent, I think, because I always think like a hill is the equivalent. Even if you walk up it, it's the equivalent of running up. It's the equivalent of running flat.
Yeah.
But you know. So you've already run all the way down that hill, and then if that was flat at the bottom, you're still running, so your heart rate's up, and then that open bit, even though it was all open, it was only the first bit that was downhill. It seemed like it was flat, but it was actually all. So I think what was happening was in your mind you start going. In your mind you start thinking, oh, well, this is just a big open flat bit. Of course I'm going to run this, but your heart rate's already through the roof from the hill and the downhill, and then you get onto that bit and you start thinking, your brain's going, this is easy. It's just a flat open bit.
Yeah.
But you don't realize the fact that you're already, you know what I mean? So that's, I think that was, and it was like you say, it was just boring, wasn't it? It was just like, because you look at it going, oh, well, I'm going over there, but then you go there and then there, and then that reminded, that was like the trail running equivalent of like the check-in desk at the airport, where you
go like this.
You have to go up, then you have to go back like that, and just go, oh, I just want to go over there. You know? But again, go on.
You give us a tip about releasing the brakes while we were on the course. I was struggling with the downhills, and you told us about letting the brakes off. Me and Freddie have been using that. We ran Jesmond Dean Park Run a few weeks ago. We did a challenge, and very hilly. I don't know if you've done it last time you were. Well, anytime you're back, have a go, because it's like that.
It's horrible.
We did. We were running down there. I think we caught on camera thanking you, going, "Look, we've let
brilliant.
We're using the Ross method."
You know what? That's Marcus. That's 100%. That's purely. We were we went out in the hills, and I mean the way that those top guys can, because they're not just taking the brakes off, they're accelerating down the hills, you know. And there's this thing. I might have said this, I might have explained this, but like, so he told me about how when you're running, and if you're sort of shuffling, if you kick your legs, like if you sort of bring your leg up and you kick, you know how like when you watch them on the Olympics in the marathon and that, their heels are practically kicking their arse, like they're properly kicking back. And what's happening is the more you stretch out your muscles, they're like elastic bands. So it's the sort of thing where, again, your brain's telling you, this is the theory. And like I say, this is entirely I'm not claiming I figured this out at all. If your brain says, don't lift if you lift your knees up, that's going to be, you know, almost hopping. That's going to use up loads of energy. And if you kick your legs right up to your arse, that's going to use up energy. But it's actually the opposite, because what you're doing is, as you kick your legs back, it pulls it's like an elastic band. If you're just sort of shuffling along, you're doing this with the elastic band, you're just pulling it like a little bit. Whereas if you really exaggerate it, it goes like that, so that when you then go on the next step, if you like, you're going twang, twang like that.
Right.
And it's then coming down the hills. If you've got the brakes on all the time, it's just all this impact, and you're actually having to drive yourself. Whereas if you lean forward from your ankles and just drop forward, you're basically just falling. And you know, when you watch people like Marcus and like, you know, Johnny and all of these, you know, Wormsley and all of these like gods of running, when you see them coming down those steep slope, they're just falling. They're just falling and letting their legs. And there was another thing as well of like the idea that your feet are almost like you're sort of kicking and pushing, almost like your feet are, they're almost like your feet are like wheels, you know. So you're sort of driving along like that, and that makes sense. It's sort of falling forward and picking up and kicking back, so that rather than going thud, 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 you're going like that, and that's propelling you along. And the other thing which he said, which definitely works, is if you're driving your elbows back like that, you're keeping your chin up and your shoulders back. When you're can I just say, if anyone's going to do any of this, I'm having no response. I want to make it quite clear that you try this entirely at your own risk. But as like, I don't want people going out there and just, I fell down a hill and smashed my face there. But it's also that thing of like, you know, when you're going up a hill, you see people and they got their chin down like that and they're like running. But if you put your chin up and your shoulders back, it opens up your chest so you can actually breathe. So if you've got your head down and you're doing that, you're only taking in half the oxygen. So you're making it harder for yourself. And again, it's that thing of like, so if you got your chin up, shoulders back, driving with your arms, that's stretching all of these muscles, and you're kicking your feet back. You're actually powering up the hill rather than sort of you're going. It's like brakes on, brakes. You know, every time it's like, and it's the same coming down when you take the. It's like if you're in the car and you just had the brakes on and you slam the brakes on, you judder like that, then start again. Whereas if you just roll down the hill, it's faster. But I'm glad that Jesmond Dean was. So it's proper hilly, Jesmond Dean, is it?
Oh, it's brutal.
First 3 kilometers all up and down hill. It's horrible.
Right. And
Absolutely
that worked, and that technique genuinely worked, did it?
Oh yeah, did for me.
When you're coming down to the finish straight, it is a downhill, and we literally were like, remember what Ross said? Here we go, kicking our own asses, and you just let yourself go, don't you? It's mad.
Yeah. And the other thing is as well, is especially like on a park run, on the downhill bits, because people are worried about falling over and they're worried about being out of control. If you speed down the hills, especially if it's near the end, one of the things I've noticed is that like normally from 4 kilometers to the end, you get like a little burst of energy anyway. But that's the point where if you pass somebody at that point on a hill, chances are if they've got the brakes on, they're going to think that they think that you've got more in the tank than they have, and they brake and they go, oh, let him go. You know what I mean? So it's quite, I tell you, so I did the one that's near, so I did the Whitley Bay one because my mum lives just around the corner, and that's a good example of that. That was, you know how they've got those downhill bits and then the uphill bits and stuff, and then that's the same, let the brakes off, and also you use the momentum to then get up the next one, you know. There's one in there's a brilliant one in Canberra. If you're ever in Canberra, there's this brilliant park run, and it's the first half of it's on a mountain, and the first half of it is you run up to this water tank, so it's like a 50-degree slope for the first half. You run around the water tank, and then the second half, you literally just let the brakes off. And so it's only really, it's one of those park runs where it's the hardest park run you'll ever do to 2.5 kilometers. Then the second half is the easy. So if you put the effort in there, and then the second time, it looks a bit like, you know, that cheese rolling that you get where you see them all. That's what it's
Love it.
feeling. Oh, that's
You
good.
mentioned you mentioned Strava before. Are you one for going back and looking at your data? And then part of the reason I asked that is I did this Endure 24 and went back and looked at my data, and somehow in the middle of an ultra, my heart rate peaked out at 192.
Wow.
Which is bonkers, right, for an ultra. But do you go back and look at the data at all? Or do you just like, no, I've finished that, job done?
Not yeah, a little bit. Sometimes with the sometimes on a more with park runs, to be honest, because that's sort of because I do this thing where and it's because I've got significantly slower over the past since the 24 and a few and getting ready for that. I noticed how much I slowed down. What I was doing was sometimes I'll go out and I'll run while looking at the watch, and I used to do that a lot where I would go, right, I've got to get this at 4 whatever for the first kilometer, and then I don't want that to drop less than that. You know what I mean? So I'm sort of looking at it going, right, it's got to be at this pace. I don't want to drop under that. And then I've got my headphones saying, you know, this kilometer, blah, blah, blah. So I'll look at it if I'm doing that. But for the most part, I just sort of, I think sometimes it's quite nice to, which I quite like with park runs sometimes, especially if it's more of a trail one, is just running the whole thing with my watch covered and running it on feel, and then getting to the end and going, right, how did that compare to me obsessing about it? And it's always slower because you don't, but it's still quite nice to just I think sometimes it's quite nice not to get hung up on it. But also are you on that Training Peaks? Have you
No, I've seen it. I've not used it.
Yeah, so that's quite good because it's got the that will show you you can click on the charts, you know, and that will show you like your power and everything, but you can look at it in bar form, but it shows you it like a little wavy line, so you can see where you've put the power in, and so it's less about because I think sometimes you can get a bit hung up on going, you know, especially if it's a park run, you go, right, the 3rd kilometer I was this many seconds behind, but if there's hills and stuff, it's quite nice to look at it and go, right, there was a hill, and even though I didn't do it as quick as the flat bit, I put in just as much energy, and but you know, well, I think we're all guilty of that, aren't we? You know, you turn up to park run and you go, PB again this week. You go, no.
Well, we just did what you mentioned there. So we've just done a challenge at Jesmond Dean, actually with another channel you should look at. There's a couple called Those Two Runners. They're from Sunderland. We can forgive them of that. But we just did a challenge. Have you seen them?
I think I have, like husband and wife.
Yeah.
Because there's them, and I also saw, which really makes me laugh. Have you seen the 2 running brooms?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, no, I've seen them. I've seen them.
Well, we did this challenge with them, and the idea was, right, we're going to run in a team. So me and Scott went together, and Chris and Katie went together, but we give each other a time. So like, you've got to try and hit this time, but no watches.
Yeah, right.
And because Jesmond Dean's hilly as well, you just no idea what your pace is, and actually really good fun. Just trying to figure out, well, is this about right? Is that, you know, no idea how fast you're going. Did we win? No, we weren't even close. We were miles off our time. But it was just a refreshing way to do it, you know, rather than constantly doing this. How am I getting on? Oh, I need to go quicker. You know.
My new thing as well is that with parkrun is to just sort of the first 2 kilometers just go out really sort of steady. Don't look at the watch, just steady as you like. And then as soon as I get to the 3rd kilometer, just try and run as fast as I can in that 3rd kilometer. Right. And then, you know what I mean? So, because it's always 3 and 4 where you start to get tired and it gets hard. So there's that thing of like, just keep enough back, and then you just sort of run it, and then get to the third one, and then I'm gonna just go all out for as hard as I can, and then let yourself recover, and then try it again, and then there's always a lift in the 5th kilometer, and see whether that affects the overall thing, because again, it's all just mental, isn't it? It's kind of but yeah.
Cool. So I wanted to ask you before we wrap up, the on the day we did it, the enduro, you told me about, we're on about nutrition earlier on, but you had a brand of something you said you can get on the street. I can't remember.
Hang on. I think I've got it. This stuff is amazing. I've got it. It's well, there's two things. I found these in the UK. You probably already know about these. Have you seen these sports beans?
No, never heard of it.
So it's basically jelly beans. The people that make Jelly Belly, assorted flavors of. So they're just like jelly beans, but they're because somebody told me that apparently there's the same nutrition, all the same nutrition and all the same glucose and everything in 3 jelly babies or 4 jelly babies as there is in most gels.
Really?
Yeah. And so I looked into it, and then discovered these. So these are like sports beans. So they're just like eating a bag of sweets, but they're they're just sort of they're like gels, but it's nice because you feel like you're eating sweets. But no, this is once I discovered this, it's and I just want to say I'm not sponsored by them. I don't have any sort of, there's no, but put in the code run knob, and you'll this is the stuff. Rome energy nut butter, and it's almond and cashew, and you've got to it's fine here, it's fine in Australia because of the heat, so you just and then you just whack it in, but in the colder weather you have to kind of
like candle wax,
loosen it up or stick it down your shorts for a bit. But this stuff, it's just like it's almonds and cashews blended into a butter and then mixed with chocolate, and it actually tastes. I've never liked peanut butter, but it's it's just really it's like nice tasting pea. It's like a mixture of Nutella, and if you blended up cashews, almonds, and Nutella and put them all in a little packet. My only criticism of it is that the packets themselves, in my opinion, should be like that. They should be half the size. So when you squeeze, anyway, that's a design thing. But yeah, that stuff.
I remember the name of it, and I'm thinking you told me, and it sounded amazing as you were popping one. And I thought,
yeah. I would have offered to give you one, but unfortunately, they're a New Zealand company. So if every time you to get them to the UK, they're like double. But no, they're incredible, and they're so much better than so they're just better than gels for me. But as we mentioned before, I am a gluttonous bastard.
Best way to be. Listen, Ross, it's been really, really good catching up with you, mate. I really appreciate you taking the time.
No problem at all. Well, thanks for your company out there in the trenches.
Absolutely. No, and hopefully we'll get to do it again. That would be nice.
Yeah, for sure. Like I say, I won't be there next year, but maybe it's the year after. Or if you're, or they've started doing they do the UTMB. Have got a 100-kilometer race out in Australia. So if you're thinking of coming out and doing that, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and when you're back in the northeast and you want to do a park run, hit us up. You've got our contact details.
Yeah, for sure. I'll come and
happily pop along.
Come and do Esmondine for sure.
Superb. Yeah, so thanks again, Ross. And like I say, anytime you want to have a catch up with us, let us know. We can do this again, and we can jump online and chat shit.
We'll do. I'll give you Mickey's. I'll give you Mickey D's details as well, because you should talk to him because he's an absolute monster.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So everyone, thanks for listening in again this week. I think you'll all appreciate it. It's a really good one this year, this week, and we'll catch up with you again soon. Cheers.